Welcome back to Day 3 of ACAM 28's Mixed ASU Pageant, Voltage. I'm Simran Wagre.
And I'm Shion Sims, and we are your MCs for this year's pageant. Please be sure to sign into this event through this QR code.
Okay. Moving on, we have our cultural fashion show. Contestants will be strutting their stuff in traditional attire, starting with Brittany. Brittany is currently the co-president of the Asian American Student Union and secretary of the Health Professions College Council. With her sun in Cancer and moon in Pisces, this girl has a lot to overcome. Her favorite pastime is watching the Harry Potter movies every Christmas. This is contestant number 1, Brittany Rangert.
Next up, we have contestant number 2, Nicole Enverga. Nicole is currently interning with We Are Neutral, a company that leads projects for carbon offsetting. At UF, she serves as the recruitment chair for AKD5. A true Capricorn, she likes to spend her time either making bread or hanging out with her close friends. Nicole Enverga.
Next up, we have contestant number 3, Eileen Caleb. Eileen serves as the philanthropy chair for the Filipino Student Association, cultural chair for Kappa Phi Lambda, treasurer for the Asian American Journalists Association, copywriter for TED Times UF, and staff writer for Sparks Magazine. She is a 4-time recipient of the U.S. Department of State scholarships for the study of critical languages, including Mandarin, German, and Turkish. Eileen Caleb.
Next up, we have contestant number 4, Winnie Yang. Winnie is the Director of Resources and Education for Health-Educated Asian Leaders at UF. In her free time, she likes to thrift as a way to have fun with friends and find cool pieces to wear. She also loves being an Aries Sun and Gemini Rising, making her an unpredictable force. Winnie Yang.
Next up, we have contestant number 5, David Park. David is currently serving as the president of the Korean Undergraduate Student Association. He also works as the culture, events, and training supervisor for the agency. One of David's favorite hobbies is brewing loose leaf tea and coffee by hand to make the most of the drinking experience. Overall, with David's hidden 10-step skincare routine, he hopes to pursue a marketing job within the beauty industry. David Park.
Next up, we have contestant number 6, Orpheus Cardona. Orpheus is a Russian recruitment chair for the Filipino Student Association. His hobbies include eating snacks, cracking jokes, and choreographing folk dances. Born under the constellation of Capricorn, he has been hatching a plan to escape this planet ever since. Orpheus Cardona.
And last but certainly not least, we have contestant number 7, Katrina Siason. Katrina is currently the Vice President of Cultural Affairs for the Filipino Student Association. As a pre-law student, she also works at UF Student Legal Services and interns at Southern Legal Counsel. In her free time, she likes to go on spontaneous road trips, FaceTime her dog, and spend money she doesn't have. Katrina Siason.
These are our 7 lovely contestants modeling their beautiful traditional clothing. We hope you all enjoyed seeing their confidence in their cultural attires.
Tonight, we also have the question-answer portion of the pageant. Each contestant will be asked one question from one of the directors. They will have 1 minute to answer their question. Time will begin immediately when they begin speaking.
We would additionally like to note that the answers in these questions are not necessarily representative or reflective of the views of the Asian American Student Union or Asian Kaleidoscope Month, but are rather the personal opinions of these contestants.
We have all of our lovely contestants here on stage. They will be randomly selecting a number which will decide which question they will have to answer. So let's get started with contestant number 1, Brittany.
Think about the ways you have witnessed a lack of support for other ethnic minorities. What improvements would you like to see at both the University of Florida and on a larger scale?
We've seen that stances against racism from our institutions have been extremely reactive and not proactive. And we're often tokenized for the sake of diversity and rank. This is unacceptable, and we are tired of being pacified with small victories. At the University of Florida, approximately 70% of our faculty is white as of fall 2020. In order for us to make change, we have to increase diversity in these spaces where decisions are being made. And we as students also have to willingly step into these spaces. Thank you.
Next up, we have contestant number 2, Nicole.
The year 2020 brought light to several social justice issues, one being racism against the Black community. How can we, as Asian Americans, raise awareness against anti-Asian racism without detracting from the Black Lives Matter movement?
In America, all people that are non-white have the shared experience of experiencing what it's like to be in the minority. I think it's important to realize and acknowledge that the trauma and the experiences that we share as Asian Americans is different of those of the Black community and of other ethnic minority groups. When speaking up against and raising awareness against anti-Asian racism, it's important to share and raise awareness of what issues we are experiencing specifically, and it's important not to speak over or for the Black community. Thank you.
Next is contestant number 3, Eileen.
Considering the rise of xenophobia in the United States against Asians and Asian Americans during COVID-19, how can we combat and highlight these issues in an intentional and meaningful way?
The first thing that we need to do is recognize that this is not only a national issue, but an issue in our local communities as well. We need to have urgent discussions in our own orgs, our ASU orgs at the University of Florida, talk about how it affects us and our families. Then we need to take it to a national level. And if we're financially able, to support nonprofits like the OCA and Asian Americans Advancing Justice. This is the most tangible way that we can create change if we spark discussions in our community first, then bring those solutions to a national level. Thank you.
Next is contestant number 4, Winnie.
As many Asian Americans are first-generation or second-generation immigrants, there is pressure to assimilate into American culture. What are your thoughts on this expectation to sacrifice foreign culture for success in this country?
I think that this expectation stems from the colonization of American lands, and that has been built on violence. So Asian Americans work to assimilate into society because they fear for their lives and they do not want to be hate crimed or called any slurs. So I think that none of this benefits us. It only works to benefit white people and the roles that they want us to play. But this can be very taxing on the Asian American because it feels like a performance. It feels unnatural to us, and it prevents us from being our most natural and diverse and beautiful. So I think that it is really important for us to recognize that success and our love of our culture are not two different things. They do not have to be mutually exclusive. They can occur at the same time and should.
Next up, we have contestant number 5, David.
Given the surge in violent attacks against Asian American elders across the United States, what can we do as individuals and as a community to combat xenophobic violence against Asian Americans?
As individuals, the first thing that we can do is utilize the resources that we have. One of the main things is social media. With social media, we can bring awareness in a most effective way that goes on a global scale, because these attacks aren't only here in America, but go globally in Europe, other parts of Asia, and Australia as well. With these acts, what we can mainly do is we can share the messages, the stories, and the different experiences that individuals are going through. As a community, what we can do on a local level is banding together as a community of Asian and Asian Americans to see if there's anything going on. So specifically for us would be in the Gainesville area to see if our elderly are being attacked. And with that, come together to create a change by protecting them, for they were the generations that brought us here before, and of course, work globally and nationally with our other Asian and Asian American communities. Thank you.
Next up, we have contestant number 6, Orpheus.
Asian Americans are some of the most understudied groups when it comes to politics. Their political participation is also known to be relatively low compared to other ethnic minority groups. What are some ways that we, as leaders in our community, can help encourage more Asian Americans to take public stances on national issues?
In the last 10 years, we have seen how Asian Americans have a low turnout, especially in voting. In the 2018 midterm elections, we saw how Asian Americans represented the least turnout when we look dividing amongst race. I think part of becoming more politically involved is engaging at not just the national level, but also at the local and regional level. This means looking to local elections when we elect our judges, finding individuals who serve our interests, and looking beyond that, having ourselves be the participants in politics. Oftentimes we look for individuals who serve our interest when I believe that we should be the individuals serving our own interest. So if we can't find someone to have a seat at the table, we need to create a seat for ourselves. Thank you.
Lastly, we have contestant number 7, Katrina.
As a pageant contestant and student at the University of Florida, you have been given the platform to learn about and speak on different issues. How will you use your privilege and past experiences to amplify the voices of underrepresented groups?
As a pre-law student who's interested in learning about civil rights and human rights law, I truly believe that the development of law is what paves the way for positive social change, reforming institutions, and holding the government accountable to the people. The internship that I have right now works with a law firm that does exactly that. And in addition to that, my position in the Filipino Student Association as VP of Culture, I'm able to educate general body members and start discussions about race, privilege, and anti-Blackness that our community perpetuates as well. In addition to this, I think it's really important to start at home. So at UF, it's really important to bring about and advocate for ethnic minorities being in spaces that really matter, including in decision-making bodies. So when it comes to the UF Board of Trustees, one of the most influential bodies at UF, there's only one ethnic minority on it, and it's important to recognize that and call it out.
And that concludes our Q&A segment of the pageant. Thank you to all the contestants for giving such thoughtful answers to the chosen questions. Great job.
I can't wait to see who the new mixed ASUs are. The winners of the Fan Favorite Award and raffle prizes will be announced tomorrow.
Before we sign off, don't forget to sign into this event through this QR code. I'm Shion Sims.
And I'm Simran Wagre, and we are honored to have been your MCs for Mixed ASU Pageant. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all at crowning.